Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. It is Wednesday the 13th of March 2024. Well done for making it this far. So today we're going to be talking about what's in the news. Basically, first of all, we're going to have to address the racist in the room. Sorry, I meant elephant. Racist elephant in the room. Frank Hester, a guy who donated, let's see, £10 million to the Tory party in the last year. So this isn't like in the height of the Brexit wars. He wanted to get Brexit done. No. This is literally in the last year. While the Tories have been between 20 and 27 points behind Labour in the polls. He's also a chap who's made, his company has made not just tens of millions of pounds, but hundreds of millions of pounds from you. That's right, John Q taxpayer, you have paid for a lot of government contracts to this guy's company, and in return, it just cost him £10 million to the Tory party. Now, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here. I don't want the Tory party to give that money back. Why not? Because I don't want him to have £10 million. I want them to give it to an anti-racism charity. That's what they should do. That's what they would do if they had any moral backbone. That's what they would do if they had any kind of grit, any kind of, I don't know, just understanding of the discomfort they are causing the entire country by them clinging on to power. Desperately clinging on to power. So let's go through the timeline on this. So it turned out, I think it was late on Monday, that this guy, Frank Hester, had actually said some really quite horrific things. He said that Diane Abbott, who then that time was a Labour MP, made him want to hate all black women. A bit of racism, bit of sexism thrown in for good measure. And he also said that Diane Abbott should be murdered. This is in the environment of two MPs being murdered. I don't know if the second MP, David Amos, had already been killed at this point, but certainly Joe Cox had. And here's a man saying, I think that she should be shot. So instantly, everyone's thinking, yeah, this is an open and shut case of racism. But no, the Tories don't want to call it racism in the same way that they didn't want to call what Lee Anderson said a couple of weeks ago Islamophobia, when he said the Islamists have taken over London and they're all mates to Sadiq Khan, who's a Muslim. See, they're all in it together. Muslims are running the country. No, sorry, London. The woman who said that Muslims are running the country was Suella Braverman, who wrote it in an article in the Telegraph. Not just some off-the-cuff thing said on Gammon Box News, GBBs. No. Telegraph article saying that the country is being run by Islamists. Who's been in charge for the last 14 years? The Tory party. But apparently they're not in charge. And this is what rich and powerful people do. Hitler did this. There's lots of similarities between Suella Braverman and Hitler and others in the Tory party. That they go, oh no, actually, I'm the victim in all this. I'm the victim, and you're the victim too. Look at us wallowing in our victimhood. And this is a very effective tool to get Nazis into power, to get people to vote for Brexit, to get people to vote for Trump. I'm the victim. They're trying to get to you. I'm just standing in the way. It is very, very effective. I'll come back to this matter in a moment. First of all, I just want to say a big thank you to Johnny Copperhead. Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. It's really kind of you. How spicy is PMQ is going to be today? I think it's going to be extra spicy. Join us from 12 o'clock today, live, and hopefully uninterrupted here on Labour Social. And Sarah there is saying truss on trans rant this Friday. That's rather disappointing. Thank you very much for the super chat, though. I say disappointing. I mean, not unexpected, because she's a horrible person, but disappointing nonetheless. I'm doing a pre-recorded interview tonight with lovely Rachel, who's been on the Labour Social a few times, and also with India Willoughby, who was attacked by J.K. Rowling last week. So we'll be having a chat later today. Hopefully that video will go up tonight. If I don't get it edited in time, it will be tomorrow. But I'll try and get it up as soon as possible. If you are a member of this channel, you'll be able to see it a couple of hours before everyone else. So please become a member or a patron. Either's good. Yeah, we'll be talking about that and also the ban on puberty blockers for trans kids, but not for cis kids. I just want you to imagine for 1 second that there was a ban on a effective medicine, a treatment that works and is safe, and there was a ban on it, not for all children, but just for black children. How would that sit with you? Would you be looking at that going, yeah, that seems perfectly reasonable, I mean, these things can be quite risky, and you don't want to put those black kids' lives at risk. The white kids, we can afford to get rid of them, I guess, through this treatment that's actually non-invasive and doesn't actually have any long-term health effects that the gender criticals, the transphobes, pretend that there is. They say, oh, it causes cancer. There's no evidence for that whatsoever, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, Cruella and Hitler both have a moustache, says Lucy. You might think that. I couldn't possibly comment. Anyway, back to Lee Anderson and Cruella Braverman saying that Islamists run City of London and then the country. The Tories tied themselves in knots because they couldn't say that what they said was Islamophobic. If they said what Lee Anderson said was Islamophobic, then automatically what Suella Braverman says would become Islamophobic because it was Islamophobic. So once again, they're now presented with this problem. This massive Tory donor, this Fester creep, I'm going to call him Fester because it's Frank Hester, so we could call him Hank Fester. You see a little spoonerism there. Did you like that? Right, so anyway, Hank Fester, Uncle Fester, no, he's quite a nice guy, actually. Evil Uncle Fester. He, from Addams Family 2. I think was an evil one in number 2. Anyway, Addams Family Values. Stay with me here. He's given £10 million to the Tory party, and so they're in a bit of a bind at the moment because they certainly don't want to give that money back. But what he said was incredibly racist. And for a long time yesterday, I actually I scripted up a quick Daily Fail, and it was going to be the Tory party. But then, as I was about to film the piece, the Minister for Equality, and Diversity, are you kidding me? Kemi Badenoch, privately educated, of course. She waded in and said, yes, it was racist, but it's all right because he said sorry. All right. And then Rishi Sunak waded in because he was silent, silence is violence. He was silent for a long time. And then he said, yes, definitely racist. But, what are you going to do? We should all move on, which is something that the Tories love to say when it's an issue that, no, we shouldn't definitely move away from this. They went on about this with Brexit. No, it's done now. We should move on. No, we can't move on because we have Brexited and we are living in the age of Brexit. It's like saying, can we move on from the 2020s? No, we're stuck in them for another 6 years because that's the way time works. Duh. We're stuck in the Brexit era at the moment. So I'm saying, oh, get over it. Come on, move on. And then they did it over Partygate. Oh, well, we were partying every night while you couldn't, bury your mum. But move on, we got the cocaine. In fact, what's that 10 million been spent on? I bet it's not leaflets. Those rich people who went to those private schools who run everything. And if you don't believe me that they run everything, please go to privateschoolmafia.com. It's had a major update. There are now 1,038 names on the list. Anyone who dares say, oh, well, I'm going to make excuses for private schools because I went to one, or my children go to them. There's reasons why they're a very good idea. Just take them to privateschoolmafia.com and go, look at the privilege. There are 7 times more people who don't go to 14 more times more people don't go to private school. 14 times more people go to a state school. And yeah, if you can make me a list of over 14,000 people in the public eye who went to state school, yeah. Powerful people, public eye, millionaires. Anyway, yeah, they're going to stand up and say, forget about Partygate. Move on. And then Truss destroys the budget. She brings in this mini budget. She destroys the economy. Like, everyone's mortgages go through the roof. She blows a 425 billion pound black hole in the pension funds of the country. Okay, get over it. Move on. Let's move on. Everyone move on. Do you know what I mean? It's like someone coming up to you and punching you in the face and then going instantly, oh, you need to move on from that. You just need to move on. And now, again, this is another issue come up for the Tories. And this isn't the only racist thing that Hank Fester's said. He also has gone on record as saying that he was talking about trains being packed, and he said he should put the Indians on the roof, because the old trope about Indians travelling on the roofs of trains, something that hasn't happened for decades, because unlike the British train system, the Indian train system is electrified. There's electric cables up there and conductors, and yeah. I travelled around India on the trains 22 years ago, and I have to say, you certainly couldn't travel on the top of the train. You just couldn't. You could in Ecuador at the time, and I did, on a train that was a special, one of those tourist trains that they have, like the one that goes up Snowdon. Yeah, that they had that, or Year Winnid, or whatever it's called these days. But they even had to close that down after a couple of tourists died quite horrifically on the train, because it's super dangerous riding on the tops of trains. I won't tell you what happened to them, but you can probably imagine. Let's just say they didn't fall off. Something else happened. Devil's Nose in Ecuador, if you're interested in Googling it. Anyway, Mary Spender, another private school girl. I don't know who Mary Spender is, but I'm going to add her to the private school mafia list. She can be my 1039th name on the list. Thank you very much for that one, Vendetta. Just written it down for later. So anyway, so the Tories have said, we've got to move on, because this guy's given them £10 million, which is a huge chunk. He is the biggest Tory donor. So yeah, I do think that Johnny Copperhead is right, that the PMQs this week are going to be rather spicy, because there's a lot to get into. Okay, so what else has happened? Well, our Prime Minister has met with Graham Brady. Who's Graham Brady, I hear you ask? Well, most of you probably know, because you're all politics wonks like me. Graham Brady is the head of the 1922 Backbench Committee, which, if he gets 55 letters or something like that, he can cause there to be a vote of no confidence in the leader and a leadership ballot to go ahead if they lose the vote of no confidence. Often, Tory leaders will win that vote of no confidence, so they'll actually get confidence, but they won't win it by enough, and they'll still be kicked out. That happened to Theresa May, and also happened to Margaret Thatcher, if you remember, way back when. Way back then. Anyway, Alan says that going to private school taught him how to learn about and respect people from other nations. You were one of the lucky ones, mate. And I never say, if you go on privateschoolmafia.com, there is a big bit at the beginning going, look, some of my best friends went to private school. Some of my heroes went to private school. Rick Mail went to private school. Aid Edmondson, French and Saunders, Amano Iannucci, Philip Pullman, Douglas Adams all went to private school. So, I'm not saying that people who went to private school are bad. I'm saying private schools are bad. It's like people who smoke are not necessarily bad people, but smoking is a bad thing. That's the difference. I need to separate that because every time I bring this up, people go, "Oh, I went to private school. I turned out all right." And then they go off and shoot a grouse or something. I don't know what posh people do. Anyway, Puninator, thank you very much for that £5 super chat. I only need another nine. Well, God, no, it's more. 9,999,995 £, and then I'll have as much as the Tories got off this donor. God, it's a lot of money, isn't it? But thank you very much to the Puninator there for the super chat. Really appreciate that for the £5. The biggest Tory donor, unless you take the head size into account, then it's a much tighter contest. Head size? What you mean, like big Mekon heads? Like Dominic Cummings. I don't think he's a Tory donor. I think he's a Tory spiv. He takes money off them. Has the postie emptied his sack at Tufton Street yet? I'm sure he probably has. One of the things that I hope Labour do when they get into power is first of all strip the Tufton Street lot of their charitable status. Piss off. They're not charities. Billionaires don't need charities. They don't. They're billionaires. Yeah. So strip them of the charitable status and have proper investigation into them. And when they are on TV, when representatives of the IEA or Civitas or any of these other joke think tanks go on TV, the Taxpayers Alliance, the LGB Alliance, which is a transphobic organisation operating out of Tufton Street, whenever they go on TV, they have to either have on the screen all where the money comes from their depravity. Sorry, their think tank, or they have to wear. This is a suggestion. Was it George Carlin who made this suggestion about politicians? They should, like a NASCAR driver or a racing car driver, they have to wear badges of everyone who sponsors them. You see the oil companies and the tobacco barons and the arms industry, the military industrial complex, all those little patches on them, so you can see who is actually paying them significant amount of money. There you go. Johan says, if you finally get and donate that 10 million, you'll get 100+ million kickbacks from it. Well, that's what Uncle Hank Fester did. So there were other news stories to talk about. I just mentioned that fact that Rishi Sunak met up with Graham Brady, and this could mean a few things. It could mean that a leadership challenge is in the offing, but I can't really see that. Because here's the way it'll go, right? If they have another leadership contest, it's not gonna touch the sides. Like there's no one in the Tory party you can take over who is going to regain the confidence of the British people. Like 80% of the British population who are going to vote in the next election are not going to vote for the Tories because they've seen what the Tories do, which is utter incompetence. They have parties, they enrich their friends, and they make everything more shit. Like, life is so much shitter now than it was 14 years ago. On every level, it is shitter now. Education, health, infrastructure, transport, it is shitter now than it was in 2010. In fact, the amount of money that you make relative to the cost of everything has gone down since 2010. It's certainly gone down since 2007 before the credit crunch, the global financial crisis, which we still seem to be living in because the Tories are like, yeah, let's have austerity and extend the crisis. Oh no, let's have Brexit and extend the crisis. Let's react to COVID in a really stupid way and extend the crisis. And then we'll have a mini budget and extend the crisis. Yeah, we're doing great. Anyway, so what I think, and I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. I remember it well. It was the 14th of October, 1993. A dark, dark day, I have to say, when I was wrong. Anyway, what I think he met with Graham Brady for is because Graham Brady said, listen, mate, I haven't got 55 letters or whatever the quota is that you need to trigger the leadership challenge, but, vote of no confidence, but I do have almost 55. So what are you going to do? What you going to do? So there are going to be local elections on May the 2nd. If those local elections go ahead, the Tories are going to get an absolute beating. They are effectively the midterms, aren't they, of any given of any given British political administration, and it is usually a sign of where people are at. And like by-elections, they occur, between general elections, and people can, if they are pissed off, they can do a protest vote. And a lot of by-elections and a lot of results from local elections are actually the results of people voting against someone rather than voting for someone. And by the looks of things, the Tories are going to get absolutely decimated in these upcoming council elections, these local elections. And if that happens, then Rishi Sunak's position will become untenable and he will have to stand down. And that's literally going to happen. There is no way out of that. This is Phil's idea about the fact that Rishi Sunak will be standing down as Prime Minister. Will be removed as Prime Minister, I should say, very soon after those elections. The only way, there's two other options here. One is my pet theory that Rishi Sunak is going to cling on for as long as possible, maybe November, maybe even January next year, not because he wants to win the election, but because he wants to get a memorandum of understanding with the government David Cameron's counterpart in India for some kind of UK-India trade deal, which will make his stock prices of the stock of Infosys rise, and in doing so, make him a lot richer. He'll be looking to be a billionaire by the time he leaves office, I think. And don't forget, the trade deal doesn't need to be done. It just needs to be a memorandum of understanding, So that's my theory. But the other thing that he can do, which is what we all want him to do, is to call a freaking general election for May the 2nd on the same day as the local elections. So it doesn't matter if he takes a drubbing because he won't have a job anyway because they're going to be yeeted out of office in no uncertain terms. The amount of money that the Tories are spending at the moment on campaigning, the amount of back and forth between advisors who advise on parliament electoral things, it does look very much like they're gearing up for a surprise May election, to the surprise of very few. So that might get announced today after PMQs. We don't know. It might not get announced for another week or so, but he is certainly running out of time to announce a general election, which is now up to the government when they want it, when things are favourable to them. We did have a fixed-term Parliament Act that was brought in by the coalition government in the 2010s, but then that was backheeled a few years ago by the Tories because they were like, we want to decide when we have the election. Because they're corrupt, evil people. Very rich, though. Very, very rich. I'm going to head over to the newspapers now. We'll have a look at the papers. Bing. We've got Sunak bows to Tory pressure to admit donor was a racist. Yeah. Do you know what you should do with racists? Call them a racist. Maybe give them a slap. Heartbreak and horror. This is a horrible story about a funeral home in Hull. I mean, Hull is one of those places. It's like Rochdale. I think it's just cursed. And over 1,000 people don't know if the person that they buried or the remains that they have was their actual relative or friend who died, because they seem to have got them all mixed up. And the police have recovered like 35 bodies from this funeral parlour. It's family-run funeral parlour. It's all a bit grim. What have they done with our loved ones' bodies? The Daily Mail's going with that. Also, it's Cheltenham Festival, so all the toffs are out in their stupid hats. And you can see them in The Guardian. Toffs, stupid hats. Little hats, actually. Little silly hats. They look like they're wearing plates of fruit on their head. Toffs, eh? I would like a plate of fruit for my head, please. I want to wear it at a jaunty angle. And people give me shit for wearing a hat. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so Wills and Kate should come clean about what's really going on, or they'll drown in a quagmire. This is Sarah Vine, the ex-wife of Michael Gove, and a hideous, hideous woman. She's not very nice. She's not very nice. The Mail not mentioning the racism. Yep, good point. Steve's retro loft there in the comments. Yeah, they're not mentioning the racism. Tory donors' remarks were racist and wrong. For a long time, they were just saying it was wrong. They wouldn't say it was racist. Piggy Bank Britain, end of table manners. As we chew down, we don't ever put our phone down, and we chew with our mouths open. Okay, and then silly hat on the Telegraph, and Starmer will allow assisted dying vote. This isn't news. He said something similar a while ago, but yes, they will, which I totally agree with, because if I was in chronic debilitating pain, I would want to be put out of my misery, and I want the option to do that because this thing here is mine. It's the only thing that I truly own in life. It's the only thing that can't really be given, can't be taken away from me, legally, let's say. everything else I can lose. Everything else I can misplace. Everything else could go tomorrow. This is the only thing. And I should be able to do with it whatever I want, so long as it doesn't harm anybody else. I couldn't agree more with this idea of being able to die with dignity instead of having to, die in pain, having to shit your pants. It's horrible. It's a horrible, undignified way to die. And if we afford the luxury to animals, to our pets, they're in lots of pain. They're going to die next week anyway. So you could either have another week of pain, or we could just put them to sleep now. We can put my cat to sleep. That's much better than them being in pain for a week, because I love my cat more than we love our own parents, I guess, in this country at the moment. But I think things are changing. I do think things are changing. We love your hat, Graham. Oh, thank you very much, Serendipity Journey. That's lovely. Most people don't mention the hat, or if they do, it's to say, well, you're wearing a hat indoors. So thank you very much for the hat love that's coming. PM admits donor who said MP should be shot was racist. I like the underlining there. And Lily Allen complaining that her children ruined her career. Well, there you go. I think being kind of annoying ruined your career, really. I'm sorry, that's just my personal opinion. 3 held over 76 million pound care home con. I mean, I think a lot of private care homes are cons. I don't think there should be any private homes, care homes, not hair combs. They're other things. They're for your hair. Sorry. I think that all care homes in the UK should be state-run. And they should all be brilliant. They should all be invested in heavily. And basically the best facilities for everyone. Not just the wealthy, for everyone. But yeah, these were luxury care homes with jacuzzis and swimming pools promised, and I think loads of them were promised, and only about 5 or 6 were built, or 9 were built, and beset with problems. Meanwhile, the people who ran the care homes were going around on private jets and racing around in their Ferraris. And then finally, the Financial Times, all on its own, all by itself. Saying inflation's rise to 3.2% challenges Fed stamina for last mile in prices battle. So there you go. So I don't really know what that means. Someone enlighten me in the chat. That hat should be trademarked. Oh, thank you very much. Well, I think it is. It's a coup for hats. I mean, you got to get them from Australia. Can't get them over here. Well, you can, but they're imported. Who do we ask to undertake assisted dying, Graham, and can they refuse to do it? No, I mean, this is something that people would have to stipulate if they were incapacitated. They'd have to say this in advance when they don't have dementia, when they don't have any mental health problems. Say, yes, these are my wishes. It's only the same as giving someone else power of attorney if you are incapacitated. But the idea that we were going to, massacre our parents for the money in their will after 14 years of the Tories, I don't think your parents have got any money left, mate. I mean, seriously. But I love the idea that we're all Machiavellian, sitting there going, "Go away from my parents to die so I can get their money from their will." I mean, maybe like a tiny minority are thinking that, but the majority of people, they kind of like the parents. I mean, they might not like them, but they still love them. I mean, I guess. This idea that we're all secretly going to do evil things. It's just it annoys me, infuriates me in equal measure. It's like when people who went to private school are very rich, daddy's rich, mammy's rich, they have their own private helicopter, and yet they still work. And then they say, "Oh no, we couldn't have universal basic income because everyone would be really lazy. Where's the motivation to work, eh?" I'm like, you've got no motivation to work at all. You can spend your whole life sitting on the beach sipping margaritas. You don't need to work. And yet, here you are. You're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom with lots of things to do. Why would you do that? You're worth 700 million. Go sit on the beach. Leave the rest of us alone. Anyway, narcissistic parents ruin childhood. Yeah, plumbed off, you're right. I mean, you can't bump them off, can you? It's against the law. And it's something that, obviously, it's like, there's always, when you say, oh, there should be a law against murder. Imagine there was no one had any concept of a law against murder, and suddenly you were the Israelites leaving Egypt. Your man Moses climbs to the top of Mount Sinai, and he's like, "Hey, it says here not to kill each other." I'm like, "Oh shit, is that how it works?" Up to this point, we'd all just been massacring each other every night, but we'll stop that now because we've been told to. Yeah, if you think that it's okay to kill someone, then there's something wrong with that. So let's have a law, and we're gonna say that murder is against the law. Cue someone on Twitter saying, "Oh, is that going to stop all the murders? Is it? Oh, I don't think so. Criminals are still going to murder people, I'm like, yes, but it's not about stopping it. It's about punishing people who do it and dissuading people from doing it. Yeah. Oh yeah, so if you had a sister dying, everyone would just be like killing each other. They'll just be no, because there'll be laws in place to protect people. Oh my god. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I hear Keir's backing transport bans, finding that out at the same time as the puberty blocker pause. It's depressing. Yeah, we'll be talking about that on the intersection tonight with India. What I get from this, and the hope is that they are saying, I mean, the Labour are doing what they can to shut down any of that culture war bullshit that the Tories want to fight the election on. So when Sunak goes, we need to work fighting against extremism, and then Starmer's like, yeah, we do. And then Sunak's on shit. Oh, damn. I thought he was going to say that I'd gone too far and we were becoming a police state and then we could have a culture war. Yeah. And then they say, oh, let's talk about Brexit. Let's talk about, they're going to take us back into the EU. And Starmer says, no, categorically not taking us back to the EU. Because they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to go down that route, which I understand. And as infuriating as it is, I do get it. By the way, if you, like me, would like to rejoin the EU tomorrow, and you're in the northwest, there is going to be an anti-Brexit demonstration or pro-EU demonstration, rejoin march in Liverpool a week on Saturday. I think it's Saturday the 23rd. It is Saturday the 23rd. Saturday the 23rd. It starts at St. George's Hall at 12 o'clock in Liverpool, and I'm going to be one of the speakers along with Femi and Madeleine Kay. So if you'd like to come along to that, I'd love to see you. And we're going to the pub afterwards. Yay! We need to do what the Portuguese did with drug policy, legalise the use of all drugs. Absolutely, Captain Bart Roberts. I couldn't agree more. Back to the point about my body is my own body. And as a sane adult, I should be able to do whatever stupid shit with my body that I want. Whether that's base jumping, parachuting, bungee jumping, doing heroin. I mean, it's my body. I can do it. As long as I'm not hurting someone else. As long as I don't shoot some heroin and then get into a JCB and go down the street and mow through people's houses. That would be a crime. That would be a crime. If you have a sister dying and some weird, messed up psycho decides to bump off his parents, with the assisted dying drugs, they'll be done for murder because it would be done against their will. There's still a law against... Yeah. Which pub, says BUFU Mike? Don't know yet. Probably Dr. Duncan's. Dr. Duncan's, opposite St. John's Gardens, which is good for two reasons. One, it's a beautiful pub. It's absolutely beautiful. Two, it's very close to where I think the march is going to end, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe we'll go on the pier ahead. I don't know. If we are, we'll go somewhere else. And three, there's the St. John's Gardens are really, really lovely. Especially on a sunny day. Nice place to hang out. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the super chat. Keep doing what you're doing, Graham, because you do it so good. Oh, thank you, David. All the way from Hong Kong. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I'd love to join that. Unfortunately, I'll still be immunocompromised from my prednisolone, despite coming off it on Tuesday next week. Oh, Benjamin, that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, there will be more marches. There's a national one in London. In London in September, but this is a little regional one to go and see our pro-EU friends, and also to enrage the gammon who'd be like, oh, you lost, get over it. I'm like, well, you lost in 1975 when we had that last EU referendum in which 2/3 of the population said they wanted to stay in what was then the EEC. Puninator, before we go, thank you very much. We're 6 minutes over, but I will wrap up in a moment. Puninator, I would prefer decriminalise drugs rather than legalise them because a lot of addicts do need help and struggle with mental health. No, I disagree massively. Decriminalising them essentially gives the money to criminals still, because they have to smuggle it into the country, get it into the country somehow, and it's illegal in other countries. So, and it's illegal to grow it in the countries where it's growing. So if you legalize it, like heroin is a really good example, because you can be medically prescribed heroin still. It's on the medical register. You can still get it. There's a company in Scotland, I think, called McFarlane and Sons. You look it up, and they have the only contract with the NHS to bring heroin into the country. So heroin is grown, well, opium, poppies are grown in Turkey, I believe, and legally, and then the derivative is brought to the UK for treatment, because heroin is a pretty good drug for treating people for certain conditions. Not that people want to use it or be prescribed it these days, because it's got such a stigma attached to it. But if they legalize it, then even more money can go into treatment centers, to addiction centers, to educating young people that drugs are shit. Drugs are shit. I've got friends who are now in their 40s who suffer from mad paranoia, like paranoia that complicates their life. And I have my sneaking suspicion that is because when they were younger, they smoked a shit ton of pot. And I know that some people love pot and will defend it to the hilt. And for some people, it works fine. It's great. And I'll defend alcohol because for me, it's great. But I know for other people, it can be problematic. And everyone's different. Everyone reacts differently. There is no panacea. There is no one size fits all for any kind of drug or any kind of person or any kind of treatment. Just get that out there. But And then you've got cocaine, which is a horrible Tory drug. It turns people who aren't Tories into Tories, and it turns people who are Tories into narcissistic, arsehole, rich, powerful dickheads who are in charge of the country, like Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, who then go on to make terrible, terrible decisions on behalf of the rest of us who aren't coked off our skulls. So in an ideal world, there will be no drugs. We wouldn't have them because they're a bad thing. There will be no alcohol because they're a bad thing. There'll be no tobacco because it's a bad thing. Causes cancer and heart disease. But we live in a world where these things exist. So we can either waste £2 billion a week trying to fight the war on drugs, or we can take the sensible option of saying, no, let's legalize it. Let's release half the prison population who are in jail for non-violent drugs offences, freeing up prison space for actual criminals. And we can have a society where if you want it, you can get it, I suppose, but there's nothing sexy about it. This is something they did in Switzerland, where they said, yeah, you can get heroin if you want, but you've got to get it from this clinic at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the kids go past on the school bus and they see all these weird little sketchy, people like this waiting for their heroin. And it's not sexy anymore. It's not Kate Moss and Pete Doherty. Look at how sexy. It's Pete Doherty now, looking not sexy at all. Not that he ever did, but you know what I mean? You take the mystique away from it because it just becomes a treatment. It's like people going, yeah, get some aspirin, man. Yeah. Aspirin, a trade name made up by the Bayer Company, who in the same year that they registered the trade name aspirin, they also trademarked the name heroin, which is actually a trademark. There you go. The most used drug is caffeine, says Simon. Yeah, it's legal and should be regulated. I think Red Bull is actually illegal in Denmark, which just blows my mind. It's like, don't make it illegal. Just educate people and say this tastes like shit and it's probably not good for you. If alcohol was discovered today, it would be banned. Yeah, but because if they did ban it, it's so easy to make, and criminals will just move into that sector. There's nothing easy. Like all those criminals who made the money in the 1920s in America during Prohibition, they just moved to drugs. And also the people who pushed for Prohibition in America in the 1920s, then in the 1930s, once Prohibition was abolished, they turned their attention to drugs. That's why movies like Reefer Madness exist in the 1930s, where it showed people who smoked one joint and then got all psychosis. It doesn't really happen like that, but you're messing with your brain's chemistry, and doing that is fine up to a point because you might need that. You might need that extra help to just function in real life. But at the same time, I think it's something that should be administered by an NHS, a health service that says, okay, you want this, it might help you, do whatever you need to do, but, we're going to keep an eye on you. We're going to make sure that you don't get addicted. We're going to see that if you do get addicted, then we're going to give you the support services that you need to get off it and get on with your life. Anyway, Captain says I've neuropathic pain. The dope allowed me to function without screaming. Exactly. For some people it's great. Well, it's like any medicine. Like there are people who die after taking aspirin because they have some kind of weird allergic reaction to it. The women who have died from inserting a tampon because they've gone into this toxic shock syndrome. I mean, nothing is absolutely 100% beneficial or deadly, but it's always a case of each person is a unique case. Everyone is unique. There are 8 billion unique people on this planet, and we're all a bit different physiologically and with our temperament and with our attitude. But I'm hoping that the majority of us this year who get to vote, because this is the biggest year in history for democracy, vote for politicians who are at least not Nazis. How about that? Not massive racists, not Islamophobes, not transphobes, not scumbags. That's what I hope. I mean, hope springs eternal. We'll see where we are at the end of the year. We'll have a little tally. Right, I'm going off. Difference between a drug and a medicine is quite often what it is used for and why. Well, yeah. But I've got no problem with it. If people want to do it, then let them. Just make sure that it doesn't affect the rest of the society. At the moment, having drugs illegal makes lots of money for criminals. There is no other criminal enterprise that I can think of that's as easy to do and as cost effective and as least amount of danger in terms of being thrown in jail for it. I mean, you go around begling people's houses, rob a widescreen TV, sell it on black, you have to break into someone's house. You got to worry about whether they're going to be in and fight you because they might be a UFC fighter just, having a nap on the couch. You've got to then offload the products that you've stolen. The TV, okay, it's a massive TV. Okay, well, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that to the car boot sale, get £100 for it. Whereas you can literally just meet someone in an alleyway and sell them a bit of drugs, and there's your £100. And go home and watch telly. It's just like, for the amount of effort you've got to put into it, drug dealing is the most lucrative way of making illicit money. Take that away from people, they might have to get a proper job. I don't know. Like a Tory. Anyway, so moving swiftly on, like a Tory needs to get a proper job. Being a Tory is a proper job, because it's obviously not. It's just a racket. Talking of rackets, I'll be back at 12 o'clock for Prime Minister's Questions, where we'll be hearing a lot of Labour will be just as bad, what they're delivering, 28 billion green spending promise, and Lindsay Hoyle asking if someone wants a cup of tea. Anyway, so join us for that, because it will be kind of entertaining. I'll try and make it as entertaining as possible, and it should be a bit spicy. It should be. So I'll leave you in the capable hands of James O'Brien if you want to head over to LBC. But if you want to listen along with us, and we can have a little chat about what's being said, head over to the Discord server. If you are a YouTube member or a patron, you should have access to it. If you don't, please get in touch and let me know that you don't have access, and I'll sort that out for you. And we'll go for a listen along now. If you want to, do you want to come over? Come to Discord. Okay, thanks very much for the chats and the super chats. I'll see you at 12, and until then, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, give us a like on the way out, and goodbye.